So oftentimes parents and students have questions about River City Academy and kind of what it is that we do and kind of what makes us different than the other schools. I can understand that oftentimes there are a lot of questions out there. One of the reasons is because there's no other school in the district that's like RCA. There are very few other schools in the country that operate similarly to us. So having questions is normal, and I encourage you, again, if I haven't answered your question here, to go ahead and join the coffee and questions with the principal, and I'm happy to talk more about the school and then also answer any more specific questions that you have. So the first one is, what type of student is best suited for RCA? And I've been in this job for a long time, and I'll tell you, I can't answer that question with a clear answer. The best thing I can tell you is that students at RCA are looking for having a more involved opportunity in their education. So they're looking to be more a part of the process than they are maybe in a traditional school. Students at RCA are looking to have some agency or some control or some empowerment over their work, but then they're also looking for those important climate pieces. They're looking for a small school environment. They're looking to have a more meaningful relationship with their teachers. They're looking for mentoring, like we had talked about before in the previous videos. But then also we have to remember that our students need to be committed to that culture of revision, and that idea that their work needs to be completed at an A or B level, and also that 100% of the work needs to be done. We don't average grades at RCA. So 100% of the work needs to be done at an A or B level, so an 80% or better. Without that culture of revision, without that commitment to work, it is oftentimes difficult for students to struggle at RCA. 100% of the work at an 80% or better is really what we're looking for, and that's our minimum standard for students. So it's hard to say exactly what type of student is looking for that. That empowerment, looking for a different high school experience than the other schools provide, looking for a small, more personalized approach, and looking for a commitment to our core values are the things that make students successful at RCA. The second question that we often get asked is, can RCA students participate in extracurriculars at other schools? And the answer to that is yes, of course. So any extracurricular sports or outside of school plays or any of those extra activities that are available after school, our students can participate in. The students can choose to participate at their neighborhood school, or if they're a high school student, they can also at the beginning of their high school career just declare the school that they want to play for, and then that's the school that they'll play for throughout their high school career. Traditionally, at the same time, if a student is a middle school student, they can participate at Skyview Middle School, or if they're a Kenai student, they could participate at Kenai Middle. The busing piece becomes difficult for some of them. For example, right now, the bus that takes our students to practice at SoHi after school gets them there quite late in the day. So we've been working on making that available to students, but yes, they can participate in extracurriculars. The next question that we often get asked is there busing available? Are there lunch programs available? And are there other programs we're used to seeing at other schools? The answer is yes. Our students ride the same buses that the students ride to SoHi and Skyview. So if you look at that busing piece, it will drop off first at SoHi and then come up the hill and drop off at Skyview. And that's the same bus that our students ride. It's one loop on there. In addition to that, I also have a bus that brings students in from Kenai. And our students, because RCA doesn't have a traditional attendance boundary area, I have students that come in from as far south as Ninilchik and as far north as Atkin Roads, and all the way over from Kenai and North Kenai, and then all the way out Funny River. So we have a pretty diverse attendance area group, and as long as you can either catch a bus or drive yourself or get dropped off by your parents, we're happy to have you at school. As far as lunch programs, we provide the same lunch programs with the same free and reduced programs that are available. Students can also purchase lunch. All of those programs that are available in other schools are available at RCA also. The next question that I get asked is, can students graduate early? And the answer is absolutely yes. When we talk about empowerment, when we talk about students that are looking to be responsible for their own work, if they're looking for that, building that student agency. If I have a student who would like to graduate early, we can work with them starting actually in middle school to start earning high school credit, so that by the time they hit high school, they can accelerate the credits that they're earning, and then they can graduate early if they choose. At the same time, I also work with students to decide if it's the best option to graduate early or continue to take Jumpstart programs or other college courses, so that when the students graduate, they have a beautiful portfolio to be able to attend school or go on to whichever career it is that they choose after school. A typical schedule for middle school, lower high school, or upper high school is a pretty in-depth and interesting question. It is different than a traditional school. We teach on a modified block schedule, which means that all of our students have courses that meet 2 times a week, and then they meet for twice as long as they would at most traditional schedules. During the regular school year, my middle schoolers on any given day would have either language arts and math or science and social studies, or a combination of those 2 classes during the day. They would also have their learning teams that meets together during the day. They would also have about a 30-minute activity break during the day, and they would also have a 30-minute lunch during the day. Now, in addition to all of those classes, our students also have what's called a PLT, or what stands for personalized learning time. And that's a time with a certified teacher where the students are working on their power focus areas, or what the content is for a class. So there's a series of small tests that need to be taken. There are quizzes that go through. There are about 10 questions each. They're called power focus areas. Sometimes we also call this self-directed learning time. And that comes back to the importance of students learning to be self-directed learners. For students who are successful at RCA, they can find that time to study, to learn the material that they need with the help of a teacher or on their own, and then move through those power focus areas. The nice thing about power focus areas are that students are not held back on moving through them. I can have a student who, if they decide to really focus, they might complete all of the power focus areas for a course before the end of the course. Now, that's only worth about 25% of a student's grade, roughly. The rest of a student's grade is built out of their projects. And so those projects are the ones that are worked on during that time, during the day, where they have project time with their teachers. Like I mentioned, it could be their language arts class, it could be their history class, it could also be a science or math class. Lower high school and upper high school look really similar, with the exception that my upper high school students, I encourage by their junior year and senior year that they're starting to take classes to better prepare them for what they have planned after high school. What I like to see is my upper high schoolers taking advantage of Jumpstart at the college, or taking advantage of distance courses or courses at the Workforce Development Center, where they're actually practicing those skills that they need in order to get them ready for after high school. Now, that's during our traditional time, our normal kind of time of the year. If you notice, I did not mention any elective classes at all, because our students do all of their electives in intensives that we call interims. And so for 1 week in September, 2 weeks in January, and then 1 to 2 weeks in May, we set aside all of our core classes and we do only elective classes for that time. Now, we also give some students who are maybe struggling or need some extra time, an additional time to help to get caught up. But the majority of our students during that time are creating a schedule of fun elective classes to do for that time period. Then the last question I have today on my frequently asked question list is, do you have a lottery and why am I on a wait list? I try really hard to balance our enrollment so that I never have to have a lottery, and also so that I don't have students who are on a wait list. For the most part, if you complete your enrollment information and you have it in by the end of the school year, or by the end of the school year, I can usually accommodate students. The problem that we have is we're staffed based on the number of students that we have. So we have a limited number of spaces available. So once those spaces are filled, then we wait list. And sometimes that wait list isn't by necessarily just flat number of students, but it could be a wait list issue with a specific class or a specific math level or a specific grade level. So I try really hard to accommodate students, and I try really hard that if you want to come and join us at RCA, that will make space for you. But we do have a cap on our enrollment. So if you are on a wait list, I'm sorry. I'm working as hard as I can to make space for you. And then I've tried every year and successfully not had to host a lottery. And so we'll continue to do that in the future.